Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Alex. I'm an author, editor, and writing coach, and today I wanted to talk about the novel Fourth Wing because I just finished this novel. I enjoyed it a lot, and I think it's worth a read, especially if you are a fan of different fantasy books and different fantasy series. This book has a lot of combat, a lot of trials, a school where dragon riders are taught magic, and then they have to match with a dragon and learn how to ride a dragon. So this story follows Violet Sorrengail, and there's not many spoilers here. You learn pretty early on that she is the daughter of a high general in one side of this war that's going on between the two factions in the world. And if you want to see what that looks like, the book also has a map right in there, right on the front cover, so you can explore a little bit about the world, see what it looks like before you actually dive into the book. And that is really useful, and I like that trend a lot in more contemporary fantasy novels, especially if it's a series that spans multiple books, which this one is. So right now the second book in the series is out. I started that one listening on audiobook, and I plan on getting the print version just to read through. Even on the audio version, I listened to the audio version of Fourth Wing. That was really good. The narrator who recorded the audiobook version of Fourth Wing was really great, entertaining, had nice voices for all the different characters, kept the story going. It was really engaging. And the book does move pretty quick for a coming-of-age story. Because there is a war going on, so our main character, Violet Sorrengail, is pushed into a lot of uncomfortable places that she doesn't really want to be. She originally had wanted to be a scribe upon graduating or coming of age into adulthood, and while she's attending this school, she's not quite an adult. She's still pretty young in her teenage years, but this is the culture of the world that she's growing up in, and she's under even more pressure than other people just based on her mom being a general, who's very tough on her and expects a lot from her, expects her to be the best, and has expected that of all her children and husband. And she's a very cold character all throughout the novel, which you kind of figure and get pretty early on from just who her character is. So Violet is pretty much on her own for the most part, and has to make friends in a place where she only sees enemies. And some of these techniques can be taken and used in your own writing too. So when I speak about different texts and novels and short stories, I want to talk about, the content, the story a little bit, but mostly what these discussions are is going to be, what can we take away? As a reader and as a writer, I'm always looking at what I can take away from different texts, different techniques that I liked, that worked, that kept my attention and added depth to the story. So let's talk about some of the techniques this text used. We have a main character who's constantly and consistently put into these positions where she feels uncomfortable, where she feels like this is an obstacle to overcome. And while that's exactly what we'd expect from a school that teaches you how to ride dragons and learn magic, you learn very early on that many students wind up dying even before they start their first day. So the stakes are very high. So raising the stakes, having the stakes set so high, keeps the reader engaged. When the reader knows what's on the line for the character, they're more likely to sympathize with the character and want to see how their story progresses and if they can overcome those struggles. So this text does that really well. We know very early on Violet's struggles, her fears, and her abilities and her capabilities, and what she believes she's capable of, and what the world believes she's capable of, being someone who many people know of. And Violet is very aware of these fears and these dangers that she's in. She's aware that she's more than likely to fail during these challenges that she has to get through to get to graduation and to get matched with a dragon. So we know what the character is working on and the challenges she needs to overcome. we know she's in a place where she does not have a lot of allies, and she has to be wary of everyone she meets, because everyone, it seems, is out to get her. And getting someone means killing them in this world. And not only is she fearful of these people who are on her side and who would be and could be eventually under her command or working alongside of. So she has to be careful of who she gets close to, the information that she gives them. She has to be aware of who is an ally with who to make sure that she's not being manipulated. And even she has to be careful of telling her friends too much information at certain times throughout the novel. And sometimes the character is going to have to make tough decisions about who she wants to keep in her life and who not. So this text does that really well also. The character dynamics throughout the novel are very obvious and apparent and do change the relationships between people throughout the novel. For some, she gets closer to, for some, she gets further away from. And she has to cope with those struggles as well, and those feelings about the different people in her life, whether they meant something to her a lot in the past, or if they meant nothing to her in the past, or if she was fearful of them in the past. So, to take this back to your own work, as an exercise, maybe think about writing a short story or starting a chapter, putting your character in a position where all of their worst fears are coming true, where they're encountered with all of the enemies that they perceived in the past, where they have to lie maybe to their closest friends and allies, people they might have called like a brother. Put them in these positions and see how they react. They're going to change as people, they're going to grow as people, and that's going to give a lot of character development throughout the text that the reader is going to enjoy and want to see who this person develops into based on all of these challenges that aren't going their way. Now, from a creative perspective, in terms of what it means to create a setting and have description, this novel does do a good job of striking a balance between, too much description and not enough description. The story keeps moving because a lot does happen in very short periods of time. There are some points in the novel that do drag on a little bit. There's readers out there who could say different things. But maybe even as you analyze this text, if you do recognize places where the text does feel a little bit too slow, that could be a place to even look at in this text and see where maybe things could have been cut to keep the story going a little bit. Because as writers, we want readers to read our works, and we want them to read it all the way through and to get through the whole of it. So identifying areas of struggle in different texts and even published works where the reader might, put the book down, not continue reading. You can ask yourselves questions as to why, and then go back to your own works and reflect on if there are any areas where the reader might be wanting to put the book down, where the stakes don't feel as high, where there's not enough conflict or not enough struggle, or if the, background or the descriptions are just getting in the way of the story. You want to keep the story going. Overall, I think this book does do a good job of that, especially for a fantasy novel. And this is more of a romantasy novel, which is like a romance fantasy. And you do get a little bit of romance. There's not a ton, but there's definitely a romantic struggle throughout the novel that does get explored a little bit, and also in a magic sense too. So the fantasy world does feel pretty real, especially if magic comes into romance. Yeah, I definitely recommend this book. It's a nice read for anyone who likes, fantasy series, whether if they like watching them or reading them. I think this is pretty accessible to non-readers who just like to watch movies. Check this one out. A movie might be made of it. I don't know if there's plans, but I wouldn't be surprised if there are plans for a movie, just based on how it reads and the characters and the story. It's pretty good. It's pretty fun. And it's pretty gory, pretty brutal. It's pretty gritty with a lot of combat, a lot of fighting, a lot of dragon riding and fire and all kinds of different magics and blood and death and poison. So you could probably see it next to probably the works of like Aragon, The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, Harry Potter, maybe a little bit too, with the school setting, but definitely more brutal than Harry Potter. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you like the review of Fourth Wing and the writer discussion on tips and tricks that we can take away for our own writing. As you know, I'm an author, editor, and writing coach. So if you're interested in reaching out to me for any services, you can check out the comment section below. I'll have a link to my website where you can reach out. Be sure to leave a comment, subscribe, and give a like. It helps out. If you are a writer with a published work, I'd love to feature it on the channel. Feel free to reach out. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and have a great day.